Voyager customers have been unable to access their crypto since July 1st after the platform froze withdrawals, and now the auction for the assets of the bankrupt digital currency broker kicked off earlier today. Joining us now to discuss is former SEC counsel Patrick Daugherty, who is currently a partner at law firm Foley and Lardner. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you very much. I'm actually coming to you from Cornell Law School, where I'm teaching a class in crypto this fall.
Oh, excellent.
We're following this closely.
Yes, there is a business conference going on there this weekend, I hear. So when might we learn the results of the auction for Voyager, and what can you tell us about it?
We'll probably hear on or about September 29th, when there is scheduled to be a bankruptcy court hearing where the results of this auction will be presented for the court's consideration and approval. That's normal in a so-called 363 sale. That's what this is, a 363 sale in bankruptcy of the assets or equity of the debtor.
What might we learn about, some of the buyers and, what may happen to these assets?
The good news is this is all publicly reported. The bankruptcy auction is conducted in about the same way an auction would be conducted out of bankruptcy for a company with no insolvency concerns, but it happens live in a courtroom and it's all on the record when it's presented to the judge. So you will hear about what the bidding was, what the results of the bidding were, what the best offers were. There are likely to be backup bidders who are identifiable in the event that the winners are unable to go through with their victorious bids for one reason or another. And obviously, the economic terms will become publicly available.
And what proportion of the funds will go to creditors?
All the funds will go to the estate, and from there, the estate will allocate them to different classes of claimants. To the extent there are secured creditors whose claims are validated, they come first. They get out ahead of others. After that, unsecured creditors, and possibly, I'm not sure how this is going to be resolved by the court. Possibly, customers will be treated as a separate class of claimants.
So Voyager was scheduled for further bankruptcy proceedings today. Creditors are waiting to learn if they can access confidential information on Voyager's operating expenses and account balances and retain a financial advisor, among other issues. According to Stretto, it appears this hearing has been canceled for today, but what are your expectations on the timeline?
I expect the auction will continue today, probably beyond that, until one or more winners are identified. I say it that way because it's possible that the assets will be sold in parts rather than as an entirety to a single bidder. There will be.
Well, I'm not talking about the auction. I'm talking about the bankruptcy proceedings. Do you have a sense of the timeline when creditors might see some money or some funds returned?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a view on that.
Creditors want to access confidential information like operating expenses and account balances. Voyager is blocking them. Is this something they should have access to? It seems the U.S. Trustee's Office, a bankruptcy watchdog, seems to think so.
Well, that would seem normal to me, and I would think that the creditors committee would want to dig out that information as well, and it would be best if it were shared publicly when it's obtained. There's an awful lot of public interest in this case. There are customers in 100 countries around the world, and many very sad stories we know about individuals who lost their life savings in some cases in this bankruptcy.
And the creditors want to retain FTI Consulting as their financial advisor. And is that reasonable? And how does a judge decide that matter?
That is normally something that the creditors committee is allowed to do and expected to do if it so desires. Individual creditors away from the committee can always hire their own professionals and lawyers and other financial advisors to represent their interests in the case. It becomes, that's an expensive proposition. So it's best to work through the committees and through the U.S. Trustee's office if you can.
And, finally, before we wrap, Patrick, is there a future for Voyager? After all this is said and done, are they going to restructure? Are they going to continue doing business as? Is there a future for Voyager?
Well, it's a Chapter 11, which means that the debtor believes that the business can be sustained. There will be new capital that's injected into this company by reason of winning bids, to the extent that cash is part of those bids or credit is part of those bids. So you would think there is hope for a successful outcome. Some portion of Chapter 11s don't make it. They become what we call Chapter 22, meaning they're back into bankruptcy after a couple of years. But it's far too early to say that about this case. And I'm sure the Judge Wiles, when he considers the results of this auction and passes upon the plan that is presented, will have to make a finding that the company is sustainable once it's given a new start. And so he'll have to make that finding. And otherwise, the assets will be sold in foreclosure.